What is up, everyone? Today we have a 5 horsepower dependable power plus Montgomery Ward's rototiller. This is a series of rototillers that I got. They're all kind of the same. So far what I'm seeing is they have different problems. This one, obviously that's not working very well. It does have oil. That one's stuck. The tank on this smells like total hot garbage. So I think this one might be needing a pressure washing at the very minimum, and most likely overnight soakage of the tank in vinegar, or I may break down and use some acid to make it a little easier and quicker. There are 3 more after this, I think. I don't necessarily want to just have something on my table for 2 days at a time, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Tines, they don't really move freely. That's good. That can also be bad, that they could be seized, but they do move a little bit once the weight's not on them. You just don't want them to move super freely, because that most likely means the gears are bad. If yours is really old, or you have access to the pulley down there, you can turn it as long as there's no belt and see if the tines move. Depending on the gear ratio, maybe like 1 full turn does like an 1/8 of a turn of the actual tines. So, let's see here. The throttle is a little sticky. I don't really see too much of a problem, except it's just really dirty. So I think first things first, we're going to take off the air filter, take the carb off, take the tank out, drain the tank, and then pull the cover off. Oh, man, that's a hard one. Because I don't know if there's any compression. I don't want to go through all this work without knowing that there's at least something there. But that would mean most likely the clutch is frozen. That's why it's not retracting. So it does have oil. It doesn't look like it's a rainbow shower in there either. So I think the engine's probably okay. This is old enough, I believe, for points. So while we have the cover off, we're probably just going to check the points out and clean them. I don't know if this is the first time I brought up points here. I don't think so, but we're going to do that while a lot of the tank stuff is soaking. So I'm going to go ahead and get that started. Oh, that's not a good sign. The air filter comes off in a crunchy noise. At least the screw isn't broken. Air filter's not the right one. That's okay, we can change that. Oh, it does open. Okay, good. I've yet to really see the inside of this. I just smelled it. It just oh my god. That is disgusting. Yeah, that's not good. So at the very least, it's gonna need a good soaking. Oh, look, we have a little friend. Look. Always a distraction. So let's see how these come out. Probably not easy. Not too bad. There's another one down here, which you can't see, but that. So I'm going to take both those out. They're usually not the easiest thing in the world to do, and then that will free up this whole thing, and then we'll take off the carb with the tank. Something is important. You need to take this off. There's a little spring. Just wanted to play not nice. There we go. So now I'm just gonna take the tank off. There's one more bolt and the line for the throttle beneath it. Throttle's not too hard, just 5/16. Let's see if the cable moves. Nope. Okay, that's the reason why. Okay. So, just going to take that out. Now, in theory, we just have to take off the breather, and this should come off. And, oh yeah, it's also the spring. Almost forgot about the spring. Okay, let's go to the carb station. We're actually a little bit to the right of the carb station on this little vise I have for tiny things like this to be held. Now, that was the breather I was talking about. Took that off. In fact, let's turn the ultrasonic on. Probably won't have to worry about, I mean, this is not going to be running anytime soon today, I'm sure, based on this tank. But we can at least get the carb done. Man, my stomach is like borderline upset at me for just being around this smell. Okay, gasket came off pretty cleanly. I think the carb itself is probably fine. Let's see if we can get you closer. This is the little cavity that fuel comes up the tube here, then goes in here, and then gets drawn up into the engine. That's actually not too bad. That though, I don't know if we're going to see anything. No. Wow. There we go. Just imagine that everywhere. So let me pour out the gas. I use that term gas very loosely. Like 95% sure if this is gas, it wasn't gas 10 years ago. It's paint thinner now. Yeah, that's disgusting. No idea how old that is, but I would be surprised if that even burned. Next time you're driving by like a Dollar General or Dollar Tree or whatever dollar store you have in your area, get some, I guess this one isn't from there, but just get something cheap. I mean, this is just distilled white vinegar. There we go. Clean that out. So right now it's almost to the very, very top. Right now, here's the top right there. Not too worried. I'll clean the surrounding with like a brush later. But I'm gonna let this sit for at least a day. No, that's done. Because well, just mainly this tube was in there. I'm gonna still put this in the ultrasonic cleaner. It's a pretty simple little carb. Take these out. This is your fuel pump. Obviously this is an older one, but there is a even older one, well, probably a couple of them like this, that doesn't have this. You know if you don't have this, but it's this style, you have a fairly old carb. Now, I want to say this is like the in-between carb. Because if you look right here, this is pretty close to the body. The newer ones like this is actually extended out, so if you need to replace it, you need to remember what type you have. So they will not work. At least now without some pretty heavy modifying. Or at least what I would consider heavy modification. That wasn't too bad. We'll put a new one in there. The spring just helps pump. Gasket also isn't too bad either. The gasket for the carb, or for the intake, is stuck on it. I'm not going to worry about that. That's just a 1/2 inch. And then this jet is removable. I'm not going to say it never happens, but majority of the time, if you're having a problem with these, you are going to have either a bad diaphragm, that was the pump we took out, or a clogged, I know it sounds weird, but a fuel tank with a venting issue. So, let's put this away over here. Don't want to lose that. Put this in an ultrasonic cleaner for probably a good 10-15 minutes just to get all this gunk out. Then we'll work on the pull cord. I took the cover off and frozen clutch, just like I thought. Whoever took this off last also mess that up. If you hear some noise in the background, I apologize. It's springtime and then weekend. Have to love it. So now, this should just come off. I don't know why you would put these on there if you're not going to put them on the screen. Unless it's just to hold the little dust guard on there. Even then, that's what the screen does. Okay. So, while you were off doing that, I decided to check for spark. And who would have guessed there's no spark? So, one way to check is if you see the coil, you can see a wire go down. You know you have points. So we're going to take off the flywheel too. This is a clutch removal tool. Which makes that a whole lot easier. If you don't have one and you have a Briggs and Stratton motor, you need to get one. So, as you can tell now, the clutch itself seems to be pretty good. I still want to clean it, but I think a lot of it is just here. So, well, we'll clean it up later. Right now I'm going to take off the flywheel. That's a little bit of a cumbersome process. I need to put you in a safe place and then we'll get started. This is 100% easier with another person, but I'm going to do it without one. Put a pressure source behind it, aka crowbar, and then the air hammer on the front. You just want to be careful you don't mar this, so you have to be pretty careful of that. That was it. That'd be so nice and surprising. And it is. Okay. This is where spiders like to live. But we're okay. This is your key. Make sure you keep that. Okay. Let's do the points. Now that we have that off, we can get in here. See, this is the cable I was talking about. Now, the reason why I said you need an air hammer is because you don't want to hit this with a hammer. Even if it's a rubber hammer. Well, I guess you could with a rubber hammer, but you're probably not going to get anywhere with that. Because you do need to shock it a little bit. Oh my god. Those are probably the worst set of points I've ever seen. Yeah, I don't know if these are going to be coming back. I mean, the condenser is disgusting. The points are horrible. I'm going to look and see if I have a different coil for this. So I think I found one. As long as it mounts upright and it's the same general type as well as fits the same flywheel, pretty much okay. Oh my god, seriously. So my only concern is the holes. I don't think they're the same. No, they're definitely not. Let me see if I can find something else. I pretty much just completely gave up on the other flywheel, or the other coil and point system. So right now, I have the flywheel on there, you know, so it's not going to be a problem. I have the key in there somewhat. I'm just going to turn this. And that is the top of the hole for that one. So that one's not going to work. Have to find another one. We might be running into some magic. I've just ran across this one, and it's the only one that fits. Perfect size for the flywheel, and the holes for the screws are big enough to support this, which is another issue I've been running into. These screws are pretty big. That's roughly 0.010 of an inch. It's like the thin business card-ish, or just normal business card. Now usually you'd be connecting a kill wire to this, but this one has one of those systems where you just ground out the plug itself. Oh, come on, get out there. There we go. Oh. I've used this paper a few too many times, as you could probably tell. It's a little brittle. Time for a new one, I suppose, now. Let's see. Let's get out there. Okay, there we go. So, oh, I know why. I didn't torque down the flywheel. Okay, I'm going to clean up the clutch and then we'll torque it down. I'm going to clean the shaft here and then we'll do the proper gapping of the coil. Clean the clutch. Inside here should be some ATF. You don't need a whole lot, just there we go. Towel. So like I said, you don't really want a whole lot. I'm just going to bat some of that off. You want to keep your clutch dry. I mean, maybe you could put oil on the ball bearings, but it's just still not a good idea. Oh, yeah. I just wouldn't. The reason why, like I said, you want to use the air hammer to take that off was because that shaft that this is going on is pretty detailed. I mean, it's not that much smaller than the actual clutch itself, so you don't want it to have any problems. That's nice and loose. Pull on it that way, it's good. This way is good. I didn't really clean up too much of the outside, but the inside I did. Okay. Would you believe it? It's about 2 or 3 days later. all kinds of weird emergencies. I say that, you know, in quotations, of course, took place, and yeah, unfortunately the tiller just had to wait. But it's a good thing because that tank really needed to soak more than just a day. So let's see, today's day 2. I looked at it, it wasn't all that great. So I think tomorrow will be pretty much set. So we'll be able to finish the tiller tomorrow. Vinegar over time can damage the tank, but you would have to leave it in there for a really long time. Do you ever watch those videos from people who have entirely too much patience and they end up putting, like, they go to like a estate sale or something and find like some old wrenches or something random, and then they put them in a big bucket of vinegar for like a whole year, and eventually majority of the metal is just gone. Well, same thing happens except in tanks. So you don't really want to leave it in there too long, but 3 days is not going to do anything. There was a thick layer of sludge in there. I might take it out today, I don't know. I'll look at it again. Usually you'll see a whole bunch of, I don't want to say bubbles, but disruption on the top of the tank once you're done. So if you do see that, it's a pretty good sign that you pretty much are done. Now, you do want to rinse it out with water very thoroughly. That will neutralize everything. I mean, yes, you're not using acid, but you do want to get all the vinegar out of there. I mean, technically, I think vinegar is a very mild acid anyway. So, we didn't put those on super tight. That's a bad idea. And with the exception of just maybe lubing up that carb or that choke, which we could do right now, we're done with this carb. We just have to wait for that tank. There we go. Okay, I'll look at the tank. Okay, I got everything done. There are some spots like right there that are a little crusty, but for the most part, it's not looking all that bad. I just don't know how much more I can get out. Like I said, a lot of it's just out. There's just those hard to reach areas, so I'm going to consider that a win, considering there was probably a 1/4 inch of crap underneath there beforehand. And I'm going to put the carb on, and we'll give this a shot. The carb is done. Got a gasket kit in just in case, but I'm going to replace all that, especially since that just came off. Clean up this surface as much as I can, and be good to go. So let me go ahead and do that. I think we are almost done. Fresh gas in the tank, fresh plug. Now, a couple things I kind of glossed over. When taking out the vinegar from the tank, make sure to rinse it out. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. Also, you need to take the boot off of the new plug wire, because the one we took off doesn't require you to ground it out like that to kill it. So do that. But other than that, the only other thing I would recommend is when you're drying the tank out, take like a torch and just warm it up. It dries a lot faster. Just don't burn it, of course. It's going to take a few pulls because the tank is dry. I just put gas in it. It needs a fill, go through the carb, and go fill that little chamber. It's going to take, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 pulls. Let's give it a try. Okay, well, I think it's good to go. I'm going to let it run a little bit. Let it run for about 10 minutes. Seems to be fine. There's no leaks. There's no problems going high RPM, low RPM. The transmission seems okay. I'm going to take out and back just to make sure, but when I touched the bottom, if it was bad, it probably would have just stopped, or at least had some hesitation of stopping. It didn't seem like. In fact, I think you can scrape the dirt off the wood. So that's good. At least it's already kind of rototilling. So that's good. I'm going to change the oil since it's hot now. And other than that, that should be about it. So what did we do? We converted from a points to electric ignition. To be honest, I kind of usually try to do that anyway, because points... Here's the thing about rototillers. They generally have problems with sitting. Every single problem you saw right now has a problem sitting, from the tank, from everything. And the problems get worse where they sit. If they sit in the shed, probably not going to be too much of a problem, especially if you store it right. If they sit outside, that could be a problem. Having said that, points, no matter where you store them, unless you put them in a heated, climate-controlled area, probably going to get a little nasty. And when they do that, they won't make the proper connections and you won't get spark. Now, you saw the process of rejuvenating spark. At least you kind of did. You just cleaned the points, those little plungers. A normal person doesn't want to do that every single year. This will avoid having to do that. The only thing that, like I said, you have to worry about is just taking that boot off. I kept it because sometimes boots come in handy, you know? So keep that in mind. because that little clip on the top literally grounds the plug out so it doesn't have spark anymore. So you need to have metal on metal. Other than that, yeah, it definitely needs a good pressure washing. There's no doubt about that one. The oil checked. I'm going to check the gears, or well, the oil or the fluid in the actual tiller body. It should be fine. If it is low, this is usually my go-to. Some of them require something different, but to be honest, they're all basically the same. It's fine. Especially where I live, some of them will usually say not so heavy of a weight. But this engine is really good. I really like these 5 horses. I'm not a fan of the older style like this one, but it runs really, really good. I do like the older carbs, but I don't like how they're installed. I should say that. The carb itself is great. Only thing I would say might help is replacing the muffler, but you know, that's just an aesthetic thing. It works. There's no big holes in it. It's just rusty. I'm rambling, so I'll let you go. Have a good night. Definitely subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one. If you have any questions, leave them in a comment below. If you think I should have done something else, leave a comment below. Or if you just have anything that, you know, you have this exact same one and this helped you get through it, or you need to change your ignition or clean your tank, you know, let me know that this helped you out. Okay, have a good night. Catch you in the next one.